So this is vinegar, and I've already told you that white vinegar is made from corn or wheat. You won't know which, so that's not safe. Are there any other types of vinegar that are safe for somebody with cider? Right, so apple cider is safe. Rice wine vinegar is safe. Red wine vinegar. Balsamic, if it's truly balsamic vinegar made in the traditional way, is safe because it's just red wine vinegar that's been aged in oak barrels for about 20 years. But what's sold as balsamic vinegar in this country usually has a really nasty ingredient list. And I don't know what the source materials for all those ingredients are. Personally, I don't use it because it just looks too gross to me. So balsamic vinegar is suspect in my mind. Somebody could do the research, and maybe you can find a brand that would work, but I wouldn't just use balsamic vinegar without checking it out in detail. Are either of these two products safe? And why not? So this has mustard powder. It has white vinegar. This has white vinegar. Some ketchups often have modified food starch. Modified food starch is also another name for, well, it's often derived from wheat. You won't know from the label. So then I'm just going to leave that up. And a lot of these pictures were from Flickr, and as long as I let you know who the people were that took the pictures, then they let me do that for free. So while we're doing that, sour cream, is that safe?
I don't think so.
This particular brand is, but an awful lot of brands have dextran, maltodextran, or modified food starch added, so they're not.
What is that brand?
This is Prairie Farms, and this was from a few years ago, so I don't know if they're still safe. Manufacturers change their formulations pretty frequently. Sometimes companies get bought out and there's still the same name on the label and you trust them, but somebody else is in charge of the manufacturing, so you have to stay up on who owns who and who's reputable. But this just has milk, cream, and enzymes, and as far as I know, that's safe. Mole sauce. Is this particular mole safe? Surprisingly enough, this is, but most mole is not. Most mole has wheat in it. But this one has apple cider vinegar. So the white vinegar, which usually makes it unsafe, is not there. And they're using corn instead of wheat as the carbohydrate part. This is an Indian spice. Let's see if I can say it right. Asafoetida. If you're at a place that has curry and there's asafoetida in it, is that ever going to be safe for somebody with a gluten sensitivity? The answer is no, and it's because this particular spice starts out as a resin and they have to grind it, and to keep it from clumping again, they add wheat flour. And I tried, because I love this spice and it's anti-inflammatory, it's really good for people with arthritis. I tried for 2 years to find a source that didn't have wheat in it, and at the time, I did not succeed. Asafoetida. Coke. Can you have a sugar Coke? Like just a regular classic Coke?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So to me, when I read the label, because it says natural flavors on it, and I don't know what those natural flavors are, that makes it suspect. But if other people know for sure that they don't react, and I hope that's for sure, then this is probably okay. It has high fructose corn syrup, which isn't really healthy for anyone on this planet. I don't know where the caramel coloring came from, what they derived that from. So, possibly. If this was a Diet Coke, would this be safe?
No.
Exactly. So I've got a couple different hot sauces. Are either of these safe?
I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, they both have white vinegar in them. So no. If you really love hot sauce, it's possible to get a lot of really good chilies in this area. So cook them in something like apple cider vinegar and put them in your blender, and then you've got your own hot sauce, gluten-free, for sure. Wash them first to make sure they didn't pick up any gluten anywhere that they traveled.
How about chili pepper, chili pepper? Can you add that?
As far as I know. Does anybody know differently?
I wanted to ask you, just a distilled vinegar, is that like vinegar?
Yes. And here's a final kind of trick one. If you have a gluten sensitivity, can you have wine? Yeah. The reason I have this for my arthritis talks is there's some other tricky sensitivities out there too, and you won't see on the label, but wine is usually clarified with gelatin. Gelatin is usually made from beef or pork commercially, and so people that have a beef or a pork sensitivity often will get very sick when they drink wine, and they won't know why unless they know that. And finally, if I have dried cat food or dried dog food, is it a good idea to feed my pet in the kitchen? Right. This particular cat food has both wheat and corn, and so at least with my cats, I would get dust in my kitchen, and so if I got dust in my kitchen and it's got wheat in it, then anything I make, I'm potentially exposing myself. So if you have a cat or a dog, I would actually feed them in a separate part away from where you're preparing your food, and I would keep it clean, and I would, instead of doing something that puts dust in the air when you sweep, I would actually use a damp cloth, and I would, when you're done, wash your hands so that you don't have that residue on your skin where your immune system can potentially see it.
There are the higher end foods that don't contain any grains.
Right. Yeah. So yes. So if you can get a gluten-free pet food, not only is that going to be good for your pet, but it's going to be really, really good for you. Thank you for that. Do you know any of the higher end brands that?
No, but when I go in, there's a number of them. It's not hard to find them at all.
Okay. Great. So that's probably worth paying the extra both for your pet's health and your own.